What's going on, guys? Today we're talking about things I wish I had known before starting to ride adventure bikes off road. Probably the elephant in the room for most people getting into riding adventure bikes on the dirt, gravel, the mud, wherever it might be. The biggest fear for most people is dropping their bike. Uh, it's going to happen no matter what. It doesn't matter how good of a rider you are on the street. You're going to find yourself in a situation where the bike is going to do its thing and it's going to end up on its side. Luckily, most drops in the dirt are usually pretty low speed. You're not going to be, tearing down a dirt road and all of a sudden the bike's just going to come out from underneath you. It doesn't really work that way, but you will be going real slow and, the bike will lean a direction that you're not expecting or whatever the situation might be. You'll go to put your foot down and not realize that to your left is a little bit of a downslope. And, you go to put your foot down and you're just not tall enough and the bike kind of flops over on its side. You might get caught in some mud and the bike just does something unpredictable. You'll end up on your side. Essentially, just kind of get used to the idea of you will drop your motorcycle no matter what. It will happen, and it's really not that big of a deal. Most modern adventure bikes come with crash protection, hand guards, engine guards, skid plates. Another really good option is, luggage racks on the back of the bike. I don't carry luggage sometimes when I ride stuff that's a little more difficult, and that luggage rack in the back acts like a set of crash bars for the rear of the bike. Plastic almost never touches the ground, so just be prepared. You will drop the bike, and it's really not a big deal. The next topic is, and this is something I probably learned a little too late in my off-road riding career. I'm not an expert, and it's not been that long of a career of riding off-road. A hobby of riding off-road is you need to learn to trust your front brake off-road. You will be using the front brake for like 80 to 90% of your stopping power. The rear is useful in certain situations for sure, but to actually stop the bike, if you think about it, you hit that front brake and all the weight transfers forward on the bike, so all the weight is going to end up on that front tire. You're going to have a bunch of traction and a bunch of stopping power up front, especially going down hills, steep hills, muddy downhills, any sort of situation. The front brake is your friend, and you should get used to using it as often as possible. It's super useful, and it is a habit and a skill that will take your off-road riding to the next level for sure. So get used to using your front brake and trust it, rely on it, because it will do the job, and it's the best way to stop in low traction situations. The next topic would probably be gear. Gear is super important. It doesn't really matter what you start with as far as like a helmet is concerned. As long as it's a quality helmet, you should be okay. It doesn't have to be an Arai adventure helmet. It doesn't have to be a climb adventure helmet. It can be your street helmet. You'll do just fine riding in the dirt with that until you decide to get a more adventure oriented helmet. Not a big deal. What is a big deal though is protection, as far as abrasion resistance for jacket and pants. You want impact protection, elbow pads, knee pads. Some people wear a neck brace. I don't. I've read and seen too many horror stories of guys coming off of bikes at low speed and it hurting them. Probably the biggest, most important thing as far as gear is concerned when you're riding off-road is boots, lower leg protection. You don't want to just go out there with a pair of Timberlands. You want to get a set of legitimate off-road riding boots, something that comes up, almost up to the knee, like past the calf. O'Neill, O'Neill probably makes the most affordable ones, but there's all kinds of companies that make good quality lower leg protection as far as boots is concerned. Those are super common injuries when we're riding off-road, lower leg injuries for sure. So solid pair of boots, and you want knee protection, elbow protection, and noggin protection. Another topic that I wish I had done more research on and wish I would have learned a little bit more about is tires. Tread types for on-road, off-road. There's about 1,000 different types of tires, manufacturers of tires. They all are designed to do a different or specific job. Find a set of tires that fits your style of riding. If you're going to be riding mostly off-road, go with a off-road oriented tire. If you're going to be riding mostly on-road, go with a on-road bias tire. There's plenty of companies that make like 80-20 tires, 80% road, 20% off-road. They'll get you down gravel roads, but they will lack their performance in trickier off-road situations. I have found issues with on-road bias tires off-road where they lose traction at a thinner threshold than something that's a little bit knobbier. It just depends on what kind of riding you think you will be doing. What type of riding you're going to want to do most often. I typically ride on road, so I'm usually on a more street-oriented tire, but I will swap over to a much knobbier, more aggressive tread when I'm going on a trip to primarily ride dirt. So it makes sense to have a few different sets of tires. I can't afford a whole other set of wheels, but that's another option too. Just have another set of wheels with the two different types of tires on them, depending on what kind of riding you think you're going to be doing for however long. But very important idea of riding off-road, and this is something I definitely learned way too late, and I learned the hard way. Airing down your tires is super useful and something that you should definitely do before transitioning from street to off-road. If you're going to be in something that's a little more difficult as far as the off-road riding is concerned, hop off, air down the tires, carry one of those little portable air pumps with you, and you'll notice a world of difference as far as grip is concerned in lower traction situations. And then as soon as you're done riding off-road, you pop off, you air the tires back up to street PSI, and then you're ready to go. Really easy, really useful tool as far as finding traction when riding off-road. Air down those tires. It definitely works. Last but not least, and also super important for safety reasons and just it's more fun, find a group. Find some people to ride with, maybe just one buddy, maybe a whole group of people. It's more fun to be out on trails, tearing stuff up with your buddies or just some riding friends, than it is to be out there by yourself. From a safety standpoint, it is a must. I won't get on a trail on my KTM without riding with somebody. It's a heavy bike, and it is a dangerous hobby. So if something were to happen and I wasn't able to pick up the bike or I wasn't able to get the bike off of me in an emergency, it always is best practice to ride with someone. So find a group. There's all kinds of groups on Facebook, on whatever social media you use. Find people to ride with. It makes the experience way more enjoyable and way safer. If you enjoyed this video, guys, like and subscribe. Throw a comment down below. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next one.